thanks Gregor for my introduction, and also thanks to Trek and to Annika to having me today. I'm Matthias. I work since around 7 years for Eventim in a role which is leading, or which is a product owner role in leading analytical services for Eventim, basically to provide services such as GA360 as an interface solution to our end users, but also to develop and maintain and organize more advanced use cases on Google Cloud Platform. And this is basically what I would like to talk about to you today, to how we created an analytics data hub on Google Cloud, what were our use cases, so our requirements, what we had as challenges, as pitfalls, but also how beneficial it is to create such a data hub for a bigger organization. Just in brief, some content of what I would like to talk about today. I will tell you about a little bit of what is CTS Eventim Group, so how big it is and why we need such kind of solution like a data hub, or why it's necessary and useful. I will explain our use cases and the tech stack architecture, which is basically also a solution we developed. I would like to tell you about the pitfalls we had during the development and also still have during our operations. And I would like to show you some benefits which are really good for the operational team where I work in, and also some of my colleagues, of course, but also the benefits for analysts and all the other departments which are using this data. So what is CTS Eventim Group? CTS Eventim Group is basically doing business in two big areas, which is ticketing and live entertainment. The ticketing, or basically CTS Eventim is Europe's main destination for ticketing. You probably, if you have bought a ticket sometime in Europe, you probably would have bought it via a computer ticket system. So this is what CTS is standing for from Eventim Group. It's most likely, if you are from Germany or from Italy or from Austria, it's very likely that it's basically from CTS. So what does it account for? It accounts for 250 million ticket transactions per year, and we are present right now in more than 20 countries with the computer ticket systems, worldwide. Also, the other thing is that here Eventim is also the first, Europe's leading provider for festival and promotion. So it's basically live entertainment, which accounts for 800,000 events per year, which is basically developing events, creating events, and also fulfilling the events. So you may have heard of, I don't know, like Hurricane or Rock am Ring or something like this. These are the main festivals which Eventim also creates and fulfills. So something like this when you have something in mind. We are not only in Europe active, but also nowadays in North America, since a couple of years in Southeast Asia, which we do to provide for the artists and also for the promoter the possibility to create global tours, to not only have tours in Europe, but also in North America and maybe also in Southeast Asia. If you'd like to have more information on Eventim corporate numbers or whatever details you would like to know, I will share the presentation afterwards, and you can just go to the Eventim corporate site or just go now if you like. It's up to you. Talking about the computer ticket system. My presentation is not only about the computer ticket system itself, but it's mainly about the digital touchpoints. So still the same stuff. So we talk about the 20 plus. I think the actual number is 22. We are having digital touchpoints, so like a website, a main brand website, a white label shop, but also an app in 22, I hope this is correct, 22 different country markets, and this is also the touch points where I track data on. So mainly we track data with GA, but also with our own targeting system. And these touch points also track data for the specific ad platforms and so on. So this is what I would like to talk about today. Coming to our use cases. So we see, since our department, or the bigger department I work in, it's called information science, which is basically the department which is doing all this, everything around data, from capturing data to maintaining it, to developing, to cleaning it, to model it, but also to visualize it. So basically from tracking from starting to track data, to integrate data, but also to visualize data with some kind of BI solution. Everything is mainly done in our department, with many of different colleagues, of course. And what we do as well is tracking infrastructure and tagging service. And what we see there, for the main markets, when I talk right now about these 20 plus markets, where you have the digital touch points, we see that the marketing mix contains currently from between 7 to 15 different ad tech data sources. So like when I talk ad tech data sources, I mean the big platform like Google, which is also containing but YouTube, but Meta, Facebook, Instagram, and so on. So it varies. It really depends on the maturity of the different market, but also on, I would say, maybe also of the adoption speed. So some countries, they tend to do some things more likely, or they're more interested in trying to new data sources or new marketing touch points, for example, like TikTok or something. Others do not, so therefore this number 7 to 15, it varies quite a lot, and it's heavily dependent on the maturity of the market. Talking about the data, so right now we have for the digital touch points, we see in Google Cloud, we see 120 different or 120 plus GA raw data entities. When I say raw data entities, I mean the view ID or the views you directly export to BigQuery, which represent the GA sessions. This is not only the main shops. The main shops are a bit less. I will come to it a bit later. But roughly, when we talk about this, it's a 120 plus. It varies. It depends on the how far we go to a different market, or even goes to a different market, and so on. Yeah, the actual use cases. When you talk about so much data, so the actual GA sessions data, the raw data, then you see the thematic data you would like to know more about or more have easily to consume. It comes to custom data modeling, and the custom data modeling is representing the reporting needs we have for different departments, especially for the headquarter departments. So the headquarter departments, like I'm working in, is a support department for others, for supporting the international departments worldwide. They need a bigger data consolidation, so they cannot look like in GA in different properties, or like in several ad tech tools, or in the backend data. So basically, you would like to have very different interfaces, and some people tend to do in the past to export data via Excel and do their own magic in Excel, and then they see, okay, data is not really correct. Why it's not correct? Because I made some error in Excel. Therefore, this is something we would like to avoid with our data modeling. And also the demand for analyst dashboards and further data integrations, like for further systems, did rise quite well. So this is basically classic data warehouse use cases. Maybe most of you will know it, since Eventim has a lot of different countries, a lot of data. It's quite necessary for us to work it this way. Coming to the idea of why we would like to have a data hub, we called it Easy Web Data Hub. So basically, it's called Easy Data Hub. Easy stands for Information Science Infrastructure, the department I work in. And yeah, starting from the left side, as I said, we have a lot of raw data coming from Google Analytics, the main analytics solution. We decided to go with GA data, not with our own tracking data, because for GA, the interface tool is already in place. People are aware of it. They know the metrics, the dimensions, so it's quite a common solution. The data schema is very well documented. There's a big community behind all this Google tools around all the schema. So basically, you can easily scale with Google solutions for our department, which works very well. In parallel, we have, beside Analytics 360, so Universal Analytics, we have GA4 integration as well in place, but we don't use it in the data hub for the modeling. We have the raw data integrated to look at it. What we see is not right now not that good, or not as good as we would like to use it for further usage. Therefore, it's still there. So we have data for the past. We can compare it, but we don't use it for the data hub itself. Coming to a different data source, which is the Eventim data source. So this is basically backend data, first-party transactional data, like product reference data. We call it event data. So our products are selling events or selling tickets for events. So it's event data information, and also additional order feeds to enrich data quality, but also to enhance just the data, to see more meta information in the required data point. When I talked earlier on the slide before about the third-party ad tech data source we would like to integrate, and this is also something I think Glenn from Human 37, I think. He said something about these reverse ETL tools or ETL tools. So funnel is something like an ETL solution. So what you can easily do, you can of course maintain, also develop and maintain the APIs from the ad techs yourself. When you have one or two, it might be the case, it might be a good fit for you. But if you maintain many different data sources and in many different markets with many different needs, it's easier to buy a tool, to buy a solution with just all this stuff. You don't need to take care of maintenance. So everything, when I have something, so I don't know, a couple of days ago, I got the information on funnel. Twitter changed the API cost, but they will find a way or a solution where they don't need to pay for the API. So they will model the data from the API in a way we still have the same data from Twitter if you would use it. Yeah, this is something you don't need to bother with. You just use the tool. It's easy to connect to an end solution like BigQuery or cloud storage. So for our case, we use either BigQuery or cloud storage. You just need to sign up, or on funnel you do the authentication in your Google Cloud service. It takes like 5 minutes and you're ready to go in the respective destination. And depending on what kind of ad tech solution you would like to add as a data source, it really depends also on the sign up on the authentication process. So most of the time you talk to the specific marketeer in your department, the department who has the requirement, you get some credentials, they will tell you what they need. There are also some main templates with some recommended data you would like to import. Maybe it's not a good fit, you do your custom stuff, and you do the authentication, and after a couple of minutes, data is already flowing in, so you can start, which is quite good. I won't go to the middle part. I would like to start with the data activation on the right side, since we had the use cases to provide quite fast, I would say quite fast ad hoc analysis, and also some dashboards out of the Google Cloud infrastructure, I can say with GA data and marketing data. So it's a very good fit for us to have Looker Studio in place, because it's a native integration in BigQuery, so you basically query your data in BigQuery, or you have a table in place, somebody queries it for you, and you have the table in place connected to Looker Studio, and the only thing you need to do is to do what you similar would do in Google Analytics. You use the metrics and your dimensions, put a visualization in place, which might make sense for the specific data set you have there, and here we go, you can use it, and which is really, really great to have this kind of solution. A further solution what we have further use case what we have is to provide custom exports for further databases, I would say. So we have also, beside Google Cloud Platform, the Easy Data Hub, so the Web Data Hub. It's internally called Web Data Hub, or Marketing Data Hub sometimes. And we have also an on-premise data warehouse solution based on an Exasol database, which has a slightly different data model. So therefore, we have still use cases where we need data in Exasol, so in this on-prem data warehouse, mainly because of our business intelligence department is heavily using transactional data for business intelligence purposes like finance reporting, corporate reporting, etc. So they have other BI solutions in place there as well. These BI solutions use mainly Exasol data, and we prepare I would say the more detailed data in a more aggregated way for Exasol. Also denormalize the data because the database is a little bit different. Export it in a specific way that Exasol can pull the data in and make use of it for whatever they need. The custom export for marketing activities is basically still in a concept phase, so there is some concept in place, but we don't use it so much. You're coming to the layer structure. Telling you now about, I told you about all the use cases we have, and it was kind of an idea, what can we do to use the data in a very flexible way, but also we see that GA is not always the best data source for the things we need to analyze, or we would like to analyze and also to report. So we thought about, okay, how could we have a structure where we have very detailed data? Sometimes you need the details, of course, but also aggregated data, automated and calculated every day, but very fast. You can easy access because you just need a very, very minor picture out of it. Therefore, we come to the idea with some external consultants to create a layer structure. So first of all, we have storage layers, also called data lakes. So not that big, but storage layers. I think it's a better better naming for it, in cloud storage. So basically there we integrate data as reference data from the data warehouse, so like the product feeds and order feeds and also some other data from APIs we use, for example, the GA management API, to enhance and also to enrich data we already have in place. This comes then next to the load layer. We load this data in this load layer staging environment to see what do we actually have there. We already can see how good the data is. We can do some cleansing to clean the data more up for further purposes, but also already can use it directly in BigQuery with SQL, which is cool. And next step then would be the base layer, where we already have a data model in place. The base layer, it basically, just in short, because I will come later to it, it basically represents some minor data mart, or you can data entity which could represent such a specific report, like the traffic acquisition report in Google Analytics, but in a custom way, because it's not only about one property. We can just say, okay, we have, for example, a data entity with acquisitions information, so the whole UDM source medium stuff. You model it in the way you need your channel grouping on, and also you can just scale it for as many different properties you want. So people do not have to look into like 5 or 50 different data properties. They can just query the data and that's it. Yeah, coming to the business layer, this is very specific. The one example I already explained. In the business layer, we develop a very, very, very specific use case in a way which is basically needed, so the business case. For example, we need specific data which is very highly aggregated for a use case on data visualization via the on-premise data warehouse Exasol. So we develop the table or whatever is needed, or the data view in the way the requirement is fulfilled. We export it to the specific cloud storage folder. Exasol can just access the data and that's it. So this is what we do in the business layer as well. Just to give you the whole picture, this is all done not initially, of course. This is done by people, of course, but in the end we have an automation pipeline based on a Python framework. So mainly it's everything is written in. So the data aggregation is written in SQL, and everything, so the trigger functions, everything is done in the Python framework. So there we use also the cloud source repositories where we have all the code in place, the SQL code, and some of the Python code. We use cloud build to deploy the specific changes, the code changes or new code, what we need. And for the orchestration or the organization of all this stuff, we use Cloud Composer based on the Airflow. Talking about the load layer and just a little bit, so the load layer represents the very first step of the data. So the data is very, very raw. So you see like GA sessions, you have some information from an API. You can use the load layer basically to enrich the data, which some additional files we get out from like the metadata files from an external system. You can then easily do an integration via SQL. And yeah, the use cases, as I said, might be additional data via GA management API or the backend data we use right now. This is what an actual example right now. So on the left side, you see people of you who have access to the admin console and the custom dimension setup. Basically, what you see on the left side, there are these, I don't know, what is it, 117 custom dimensions for this specific property. When you look at the GA sessions data, you just see the index value. So you have like numbers. You don't even know what it is. So people tell you, I would like to analyze this or that, or please develop this data entity. Then you have to go back and say, okay, we don't have a proper documentation, or maybe it's not that updated as it should. So what can you do? You go back to GA and need to look at the index value. Then it tells you the scope, so how to query the data, do you need to unlist it or not, and so on. In the end, you can just use the management API from Google. We do it on a daily basis to add further data information to actually have the actual value, so the value, how it is represented in Google Analytics with a specific scope in place. So you see on the very right side, it goes from the load layer, it's GA dimensions, and you see the actual name, and then here we go. You have the the page type hit, language hit, or whatever there's set up as custom dimension. In Google Analytics, you already see in BigQuery as well, which is quite cool because it's from an analyst perspective, which is so analysts who are using BigQuery as an analytics solution. You don't need to take care of some kind of index information. You can just query the data as you might know it from Google Analytics. Coming to the base layer, so this is the layer where we already develop and manage the data entities. So the data entities could be something like as I said, like an acquisition report, but in a custom way, and aggregated and consolidated for many different properties. What is really cool about it's a custom, so-called, you can say like a custom table or custom report, where you have the raw data modeled in a way for your specific use case. What is also cool, if you query the data, you don't go down to the raw data itself. So what it does with the processing, most of the time it just costs you like 10% of the processing, which is much faster, and you also see it on the billing, so it's much cheaper to query it. And the additional thing, what is also cool, but be careful with this, you can also create data views or partitions which you can directly use in Looker Studio, for example. So you have a data entity which analysts would like to use. I don't even need to query it. If you use Looker Studio, you just export the data to Looker Studio, connect it as a data source, and then here we go. You use the dimensions and metrics and can visualize the data already. Same use case here. We have this example is based on a traffic source and data entity called external call. This data model contains specific modeling and then data for whatever we needed back then as we did it. I think it was 2 years ago. And you can directly either query the data in BigQuery, as I said, or you can just connect the data to Looker Studio. And yeah, and basically make use of it. Business layer, just in very brief, that contains a specific use case, the data marts, and so on. One specific use case is a business or a digital advertising dashboard. What we did not that long ago. So basically what we have there is we use the initial ad tech data source from the platforms. I think it's Google, it's Outbrain, Instagram, Facebook, so Meta, and YouTube, and so forth and so on. We integrate the data via funnel, very easy, very fast, but model the data in a way that we have only one attribution model in place. But all the different platforms, you might know it, have different attribution windows, different attribution campaign timeout, all this stuff. It's a mess up thing for marketeers, because you see in Facebook, you see so many conversions. In TikTok, you see this, in Outbrain, you see this, and coming to the end, you have like 500% conversions, which is not the truth. So in the end, we said, okay, we need to some kind to model it on GA data, because this is what we rely on. So what we came up with, and also the very cool marketeer who's required this dashboard, he said, okay, I have a really cool taxonomy in place for the UTM, which I already use in our ad tech platform systems. Maybe you can use this. And what we did, so our team thought about, okay, we match this data on GA data with what we have in the platforms, and also in GA, what we can see there as the matching key, and match the data as well. So basically you have the spans, the impressions, the views, clicks, etc., what you only get out of the specific platforms. You won't get this out of Eventim's data. This is what Facebook and Google and also the other ecosystems provide us. But we model the conversion and the revenue based on GA data. What we do additionally, because, as you know, consent, opt-in, all this stuff, we don't have 100% consent, of course. So basically, what do you do with the 20, 30 or more percent you don't even track? What we did there, we used backend data to model the actual conversion revenue to up to 100%. You're never at 100%, but you get a much more better picture if you use backend data for this approach as well. Just a couple of pitfalls. Initially, this is something people who use JS sessions and need JS sessions to be there at a certain amount of time. If you have this issue like we as well, sometimes JS sessions are there at 8 o'clock, sometimes at 7, sometimes at 11. There's no SLAs. It's just they're just there or not. You cannot do anything about it. What you could do instead is, if the JS sessions are not there, use the GA intraday. So the last intraday table, which is basically the one which is already from the new day. So the last one, use this one. Instead, most of the time we analyze this, most of the time would say like 99.9% of the cases, it's 100% GA7 full table. In very, very rare cases, some data is missing. Maybe you miss, I don't know, 1% of sessions or something. Still, if you miss it, it's quite accurate, but still, if you miss it, you could still update the data when the GA sessions is there, maybe at 10 or whatever the data is there. So this is one tip. Cloud Composer setup in Airflow. Know your data, I would say, because what we did, we knew very, very much about the data for the bigger platforms. What we did not know about was we have also some smaller platforms, which have not so much conversions, not so much traffic, sometimes no conversions at all at one day, for example, like Cuba. Sometimes there's an event, sometimes not. But our checker system, our rules we created in the Airflow systems, they also rely, for example, on transactions. Then when the transactions are not there, the whole process will not run. What you have to do, you have to go there and manually update the process, which is not very good. So what I would say is know your data from the smallest amount and also the biggest amount, and really think about the rules you would like to create and get a Cloud Composer setup. Other thing is, I don't want to bother with this anymore because Cloud Composer 1 is basically gone. Use directly Cloud Composer version 2. You don't have any issues with scalability itself, so it works very well for us as well. Other thing we had, it's always data confusion between data teams. This is stuff as I explained to you with the data warehouse teams on the external side and the teams which are using more behavioral data, so transactional behavioral data. People are people, I would say. Do some more knowledge transfer. Do documentation, proper documentation, explain to people what you do, why you're doing it, and how the data could connect together, what kind of added value it brings to the use case, and so far and so on. So it's just people management, documentation. This is really necessary. It might be the one thing on the just on the bottom, but I think it's very necessary to do it because still people are maintaining, developing all this stuff and all this cool tech, but tech will not solve all your problems. Benefits, just very brief because I'm running out of time and I already see this, guys. Use additional data. If you have like this cool stuff, take a place like BigQuery, Cloud Storage, and all this stuff. You have many different options, so the flexibility is incredibly high. Use Google Management API to enhance your GA data. Use custom mapping tails if you need to, but take care of custom mapping can also be a mess. So also documentation and think about what needs to be mapped, what not. Use backend data when you rely on Web Analytics data. Use also backend data, of course. Maybe most of you will know this. So, and in the end, I mean, you name it, whatever data you would like to integrate, do it. Just do it. Multi-layer structure, the examples I already explains. I think very, very great example is the use of these data entities. You can really easily query crazy data when you have these kind of entities in place, get fast, good data overview, and it's very, as I said, like maybe it's like just 10% of processing time and money. So cost-wise, it's also a good fit. Data consolidation, of course, intradays. You can use like tools we just evaluated a couple of years ago. I don't know if they are still a valid solution, but we use Funnel, which we are happy with right now. So you can also do intraday updates if you like. If the API does support this, you can also intraday update like Facebook or Google, YouTube, whatever data for the marketer is necessary. You could do it on a more frequent way as the GA data is there. So if you need more information like a click rate for optimization in a more holistic view, do it. You can just do it with these tools. And I think in the end you can say there are a lot of cool tools you can connect and you can combine in Google Cloud Platform. And many things are possible.